Word.
Things going on.
Yeah.
That
We
one
were
should know
talking,
about.
right? Things that are going on, the pop-up chorus. I guess we're
Yeah.
back, right, for episode 2. My dear friend Chris Vitiello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. Josh Hart is back there, believe it or not, rocking a Durham Bulls hat and talking about his love for baseball this morning. I'm Aaron Mandel, the editor of the Clarion content. This is my bon vivant partner, Chris Vitiello, who's a poet, a writer, a curator, writes on music, hockey. I saw hockey in your profile.
But I haven't written on hockey yet this season, actually. So that probably wouldn't be accurate at this moment.
I heard the Canes were 3-1-1 at home right now.
They've
Not
gone
too
on a
lousy.
little hot streak, actually.
Right.
At the beginning of the year, they stunk. I watched several games and was
What's
they
that
were
line
just
from Major League?
really bad.
We're hoping for not too shitty.
They were shitty, but they've really something's happened there. They benched one of their stars, who's lazy Alexander Semin, and suddenly the team seems to have put some stuff together. He is back in the lineup and contributing. I watched them beat Calgary last night.
Rock and roll. Let the record show I'm a Rangers fan, so I have sympathy for the Canes. Painful losses are our story.
That's sad.
Last year was a great year for the Rangers.
That's true.
We only lost a couple of people off that team. Hopefully St. Louis, Nash are all good to go. King Henrique, and we'll be back on. But
indeed, Lundqvist.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but for those of you who aren't excited about hockey, we were talking Durham in the pop-up chorus earlier. Chris we haven't seen it, either of us,
400 people went to the last pop-up chorus.
You should see
I
the Twitter
am ashamed
feed,
that I was not
Instagrams.
401. That's amazing.
Yeah. I think Katie DeCanto from Mercury Studios is doing part of the promotion, and I met a Lauren Hodge, I want to say, the other day, who has this lovely English accent, who might be the person running it, or at least a person very excited about it. And she told me, I saw some pictures on Twitter, so there were 300-400 people in the room just packed in there.
Wow.
And she told me they did Bohemian Rhapsody last time, and that they've got a session coming up where they're going to do Smells Like Teen Spirit, and another one in the beginning of December with Michael Jackson's Billie Jean and Like a Prayer by Madonna. Apparently it's, she said, for shower and car singers.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Those are the songs you sing really loudly in your car and really terribly in the cases of some people.
Would you like to give us a little sample?
Not at all. I'll get in my car and sing and come back in 5 minutes. And are they doing it just at the Makery?
No, they're doing it. Mike Webster from Motorco was talking about it too. It's at Motorco.
Oh, okay.
So they have the big
still
room at
400
Motorco.
people there. That's
it's
tight.
packed to the walls. Like you know the part of Motorco where the little steps go up. Like that is totally full. They're allowed to use the stage because they're the act.
Sure,
They wrap it around the other side. I think Motorco's capacity, like the fire marshal wouldn't get mad till Motorco was more like 550, 600. So, and
the fire marshal's probably there singing though with that many people.
I mean, I guess it's an amateur chorus thing. I am really I'm not even quite a shower or a car singer. Like I am a little bit.
You like to spelunk and then sing several miles underground?
Listen to this voice. I mean, really. And imagine it singing.
Maybe Stevie Nicks. We'll do a Stevie Nicks one and you can sing.
I remind you of Stevie Nicks. That's gentle and generous. I really appreciate that. I'm telling you, man. My family is filled with talented musicians. My brother is an amazing violinist and guitarist. And he's still in bands in New York City and Hoboken. And both my sisters were skilled at different instruments. My one sister was all state in the tuba, and the other one was great at the oboe. But the music, like the beat, missed me. I hear my own drummer, and I can't even quite tap out the beat. But pop-up chorus, I mean, I think it's the safety of 400 other people.
Yeah, I would go and belt
with that
out,
many other voices.
Billie Jean with the assurance that I would be drowned out and nobody would actually be listening to me.
She's not my lover.
I'll sing to my kids in the car, but that's,
Do they sing with you? Is it their music?
Sometimes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Here and there.
I love seeing...
Speaking of packing Motorco, over the weekend, Leah Wilkes and Anna Barker.
Oh, the modern dance.
Friday and Saturday night, they performed. It was the first show on the Durham Independent Dance Artists season, and they packed the house. I mean,
Did you go?
They exhausted standing room only and did sitting room only. Yeah, I saw it on Saturday night.
That is cool.
And it was...
By the way, Chris is braving the sun for all of y'all.
Yeah,
so
that's
if he's
true.
squinting, it's because Coco Cinnamon is bathed in light right now.
We got 10 minutes of it. But it was sort of the joy of... I mean, it was a great performance, but also a crowd of all people who know and love the performers. And I don't know, it was just... It was one of those experiences where you're like, this, it just felt like a communal experience, like a group accomplishment.
That's very cool.
It was beautiful, yeah.
That higher really level sense of ritual when you get those kind of communal experiences, it's, it's the Durkheimian religious stuff where it just gets right there to that level of like, and I unfortunately did not get to see my sister who was in town this weekend. We wrote about it on the Clarion, but what I think is really amazing is that Durham has that many people who are going to turn out and deeply care about modern dance. I mean, that's so awesome that our cultural community is that deep that we do. Not only they packed it twice.
Yeah.
I think it was Saturday and Sunday or
Friday and Saturday.
Saturday? Well, whatever.
No, it was Friday and Saturday. No, you're right, Saturday
and
Sunday.
No, because Friday was William...
It was Saturday and Sunday.
Friday was William Gibson, famous Hugo Award winning, because I was bent, I could not go to that. Like, the guy who wrote Neuromancer and all those amazing, sci-fi books was in town, and the Regulator brought him in, and I actually just saw somebody the Regulator brought in last night. I mean, our cultural community runs deep. I mean, who is at that modern dance? Did you know, like, half the crowd?
Yeah, I knew a lot of people there, sure.
Yeah, and the Carrick's done great stuff with that, too. Like, do we know where else this modern dance series is going? I haven't written the Clarion articles. Buddy Rutsky, Justin Laidlaw's written those articles.
It's all over the place, I mean, and sort of and actually here, I even brought... here is the name of the organization. And you can go to their website and check out their season. Upcoming, there's a company, which is Justin Tourneau's company, is in December at the Carrick. Then Tommy Noonan.
I saw that at the
week
Carrick
after at the
newsletter.
Carrick. And then there's some shows that haven't landed yet, but also the PSI Theater at the Durham Arts Council is going to be a venue. So it's not venue specific, but it is Durham choreographers and dancers presenting new work.
Perfectly Durham, right?
Yeah.
Not venue specific, but going to be at a bunch of different places. I did see that one in December on the Carrick's website. It popped out at me because our friend AJ Blakely is going to be dancing in it. Jessie Blakely's little sister.
Oh, great. Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
And she's a pro who's been dancing for many a year. And, it's just great that we have this community of professional dancers. I guess ADF has to get some credit for that.
Oh, yeah, they get a ton of credit.
Full Frame gets credit for us having a filmmaker community. I do think that's an understated element in Durham sometimes, is like the bones of who was here first. I mean...
Yeah, well, no, and I think I am the living proof of that, moving to Durham and really not knowing anything about modern dance, not caring about it, frankly. But with a background in the arts, and then... just starting to go to one show a summer that I read about that seemed good, and then making a friend who worked there and starting to go to more shows, and really just then wanting to go to every show. So
I think that's how it's happened
a lot of
for
people
a lot of
can
people.
tell that story.
Yeah, for sure.
In the Triangle, but also NC State, the Center Stage program has always had strong dance presentation. Carolina Performing Arts has always had strong dance presentation. So
I get the impression Central has good stuff for that too.
Yeah, Central has a good program. Duke has a good program, dance program as well.
How blessed are we, right? Like, to be able to get all.
And speaking of that, Duke every year does a program called November Dances, which isn't this weekend, but the next weekend, like 21st, 22nd. At the ARC on campus, and
so
I didn't know about that. Student and faculty work. I think I might be getting that wrong. Student work for sure.
But that's
faculty.
Fantastic. That's the kind of thing,
and
like,
great high quality stuff.
Right, and if you're on a budget, I think that was one of the things that.
Look at my stuff. I'm not. It's not at the ARC. It's at Reynolds Theater, actually.
All right, fair enough.
21st and 22nd.
If you're on a budget, that's what's great about Durham. There's all this like reasonable entertainment for prices. I know ADF this year did a program where if it was like you were under 30, you could get a certain kind of pass that made admissions all really reasonable. I had a couple of friends follow that arc that you were describing, and maybe they're only in like year 4 of something you're probably in like year 11 of. But they've gone from like oh man, I ought to go see that, to, oh, I went to see one, that was kind of cool.
Sure, and Duke Performances is doing that as well, I believe. Under 30, different pricing.
Yeah,
so
I think there's a way.
It's not fair, frankly.
I think there's. I feel you, my brother. Yeah, right. Those of us, we can't complain too bad, right? You tend to get a press pass or two.
I don't pay for tickets very frequently.
Right. Yes.
I remember how to do it.
Indeed. But yeah, I do think there's ways to do it, and that sort of ties back into this guy I went to see at the Regulator last night. His name was William Powers. He has a book about slow money, slow food, kind of the maker movement, how to live in minimalist ways.
What is slow money?
Slow money means emphasizing things like your joy to stuff ratio, so that instead of buying tchotchkes and more crap for your house and shopping at Target or whatever, you're spending your money on experiences, meals, events, and maybe you're trying to focus on spending less money in general. Like he was telling me about this website in New York called Skint, which is all about the free things available every day in New York. And here we are talking about...
Wow, this sounds pretty cool.
Oh, it's awesome. I right after he told me about it when I was interviewing him for the Clarion, I texted it to like 3 of my friends in Jersey, and immediately somebody was like, oh, I just got really low price opera tickets off that. Thank you so much.
That's really Skint, S-K-I-N-T?
Right. I think it's related to sort of like skinflint etymologically, like I think that's what they're shooting for.
All right.
And the link's on the Clarion content if anyone's looking in the article I wrote about this guy, William Powers. But he was, just the idea that stuff like, there is that cheap ADF kind of thing, and the Duke finds a way to do it at cheaper prices, or there's great lectures for free every day around here, or there's shit that's free, like take a walk in the park, or go sit out in the sun. We're doing this, for the price of a cup of coffee, and it's a great conversation, and what it costs us, $3.50, and I think that slow money mindset is about thinking about quality of life versus quantity, and thinking about things like rushing, and like, he originally did it in a 12 by 12 cabin in Chatham County, and he wrote a book that was a relatively green bestseller about that experience. But then he got a lot.
I think I heard. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, because I think
that sort of catching on. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's people in Chatham County, some of whom attended this thing last night at the Regulator, who are still living in 12 by 12 cabins, and had some really interesting stuff to say, like about how their kids play and the relative imagination the kids have by having like 2 toys and like a bucket and playing with rocks and sticks and the amount of imagination. But the guy Powers got some pushback that like, well, you can live in a 12 by 12 cabin in Chatham County, but what does that have to do with my modern life? So this book is about him doing it in New York in a micro apartment, which is like 340 square feet with a tiny kitchenette. And, he said you end up treating it like a ship's cabin. You have very little stuff, and he was able to use the roof of the building. Him and his wife were living together, so they would go up there and eat. As opposed to sitting in the tiny little box.
Well, it sounds interesting, but I'm also a little suspicious of the romanticization of it. I mean, it sort of sounds like upper middle class people trying to romanticize poverty.
There's a little bit of white privilege
like rent
going on
a little
for
bit.
Sure.
But it's I didn't engage the substance of it, so I don't really know.
No, you're not.
I have a little bit of an uneasiness.
Your instincts aren't totally wrong. So. He starts out, he's only going to work 2 days a week up there. He ends up working 4, and he's a visiting lecturer at NYU. So it's not like those 4 days a week are paying badly. And the wife is doing work for the UN. And I think part of how he got into it is he's doing, he did third world work for the UN for ages and saw communities of much more poverty and whatnot. And now, post his experience of doing that for a year in New York, he's moved to Bolivia or some rural village in Bolivia. So I do think he has good stuff to say about simplicity and decluttering.
Well, certainly valuable for anybody.
Shopping local kind of stuff. It's an interesting thing.
What is that?
Yeah.
Is that you burn your house down? Is that what you do?
No, you know what you do? You just move repeatedly until you get sick of carrying your crap around. And you're like, oh, wait, I don't really need this shit, do I? So the mementos just get like fewer, I think.
Sure,
And
yeah.
I've done a lot of that moving around myself. I was calculating the other day that if you take places that I've stayed in longer than just couch surfing, I've probably lived in like 15 or 18 places, including college. College is easy cheating.
Well, no, speaking of reading stuff and moving, I was, and this goes back to Brooklyn as well. I was reading it's a webzine, Hyperallergic, which is it's based in New York, and it's a visual arts web magazine. And there was just an interesting article in there about several small Brooklyn gallery spaces that had been chased around by gentrification, rent skyrocketing,
right.
find another cheap place, rent skyrockets, and they've sort of gathered more than 4 or 5 of them in one largish warehouse building. They've all kind of said, well, let's just cluster and
cool.
put up walls and divide. So some of these are real small spaces, 400 square foot gallery space, but a bunch of them just saying, forget trying to each find our own space and carve out. So let's just all go to one building, And I mean, it's an obvious model in a way, but it's also a model that I just found myself thinking about here, because we are starting to see art spaces getting chased by rent escalation, getting chased by, well, this building's going to be razed and completely redeveloped in a new thing, and everybody is in that cycle now of really having to scrounge and find new space. It
seems parallel to almost co-working.
Well,
it's a model that's
sort of
similar.
The Golden Belt, I think, had that vision.
Something of that idea.
Cloudily conceived.
They were doing more studio and less gallery.
And it still is. But I was thinking about it and thinking, I wonder if Golden Belt, which has been having trouble filling their studios, by the way, and has a new program, which is interesting, and I'd like to mention.
The pop-up thing that they're doing over there,
where
Heather's doing. I love that.
Well, there's that, but then also artists are allowed to come in and take one of the empty studios for free or on the super cheap for a trial period of time. So it's like a bunch of it's almost like this new program where you graduate with an MFA at UNC and you come over and get a studio for half a year at Golden Belt.
Nice,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, a bunch of folks are new over there. Yeah, and it keeps that place cycling too. But I mean, it's like, why do they all have to be studios? Why couldn't they knock down, some of those are not much bigger than a gallery.
Right, yeah, no, they could be. I mean, they had Labor Love in there for a while.
Yeah.
And I know they've done recently with Dirty Durham some pop-up events where it's like, here, take over these 2 galleries in a row. And maybe it's visual projection that they're doing to go along with art. And they even had one where there was a DJ in there spinning. I think shout out to Funkleberry Jams for that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was Funkleberry, if not Tree City. But it was. I like that alternative idea. Like, I'm with you that there's some sense of like, well, we have this space, and I think Durham is about to be a little bit overspaced. The same way we're talking about in condos that are getting a little overbuilt, and those are ridiculously expensive. But with all the redevelopment going on and the price pressure on the galleries, it certainly seems like that's a model that makes sense. I mean, and if Golden Belt has space, what does that mean for the real estate market? I saw the Venable Center had space. I was driving up Roxborough the other day. I was like, man, that must mean the rental market is a little slack right now.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, there are. What about the? I'm pointing at it because I can see it from here. The measurement building that they built over there. How much of that place is occupied? I
mean, I know Beer Durham on the bottom floor is doing bang up stuff. But I don't know what else
people
is
around
in
there all the time.
Yeah. We'll have to take the show on the road to Beer Durham, do a little sampling.
Yeah, not bad. That's a good idea.
I heard there's a honey meadery too that opened up somewhere right around here. On Hunt Street, I want to say.
Well, isn't it downtown near the old El Centro building, like where Fayetteville and Main cross?
Should be
like just back in there.
Fayetteville,
Am I getting it wrong? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I saw a flyer and then the address didn't quite stick with me. So
but I think it's kind of between Golden Belt and downtown.
I feel like we could sanction taking it on location to a lot of places where we could do a little recreational sampling.
Well, tell me what you know about the timeline for the Durham Police building, the new Durham Police Department downtown, because I know, Bill Fick and the guys at Super Graphic are out there looking for a new space because their building is going to be gone. Because the police department or parking lot, that complex is going to sit on the footprint of their building. So they're having to get out. But when is this going to happen? Is this 2015?
Well, forgive my cynicism for government projects.
Yes.
And when they're going to happen.
I love your body language. It's great.
Right.
Forgive my cynicism.
I mean, I was raised in a state like Jersey where we have a new municipality like every 200 yards or so.
Yeah.
Creates a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of separate departments. And I've been following.
And a lot of projects.
Right.
Sure, we'll put the police department there.
How long is it going to take us? Well, it depends on how many guys got to get overtime between now and next 2030. You know, and
we'll do a bond issue.
Right. I watched the city putting in the water main right now, and what their original projected timelines for what they were going to do inside the downtown loop were. You know, and even years ago, I think back to people talking about how, you remember when 40 got expanded and paved, like basically from here to well past the airport to up into Chapel Hill?
Yeah.
And the only part that had to get redone a couple of years later was the part that ran through South Durham. You know, and people just talk about that kind of thing in Durham. So I think the timeline of the police station is that they're going to be building it towards the end of next year, the end of 2015.
Okay.
Who's doing it and how they hand out those contracts? Like, think of the new Health and Human Services building.
Yeah.
That went way over budget, opened like almost a year late, and while it's gleaming, it doesn't have any landscape. It doesn't really connect to the neighborhood around it. It's like you dropped a gleaming
it's a
pod
Monopoly building. It's like, oh, we put a hotel on Main Street. Okay, good. You know?
I would hope that the city's going to get somebody like Scott Harmon or Gary Keeber, who's, you know, the kind of people who are thinking about what the overarching plan looks like. We talked to Preservation Durham, but I'm skeptical about how government does these things and why and what kind of timeline they're going to look at. I mean, I'm interested, too, on the flip side of that, what's going to happen to the old police station? Because I know on one hand it looks like an eyesore, but it seems like it's just a few years from when it's going to be cool. It has a certain 70s kitsch to it that looks like very much like, you know, maybe it's out of RoboCop or Escape from New York or something.
I think about RoboCop when I see that building.
Yeah,
like, it's like if Mondrian did the sets for RoboCop, he would have built that police building.
Right.
That's cool architecture, actually.
Right, so at some point we kind of have to save that. And I don't know, maybe we'll get over there at our next show and talk about that. We should wrap it up so we don't do one of those like 45-minute ones like we did last time. Is there other stuff that we hit on the calendar?
Yeah, stuff on the calendar. And we can talk about this. There are a couple good things coming up. Friday night, the 14th, there's a really good reading at Duke in Perkins Library. The Archive Literary Magazine is putting together a reading of several poets: Nathaniel Mackey, Joe Donahue, Deborah Pope. This is a good reading, 6:30 to 8, something like that.
Nice.
In the Von der Heyden room at Perkins Library, wherever the hell that is, I will find it.
Perkins Library is right across from the Student
West
Union.
Campus.
Behind the beautiful open field there.
Yeah, so, you know, you show up a billion hours before to figure out where to put your car, and I will take the bus there. And then you could
walk, too.
That's a good point. Sunday afternoon, at the Hugh Mangum Photo Center at the West Point on the Eno Park, Moretti Evergreen is opening a show, 1 to 5, a visual artist. She just had a show, was one of 2 artists in a show at the Carrick. She also just won a North Carolina Arts Council fellowship.
Sweet.
Terrific, print and ceramic artist.
Awesome.
And I'm a sort of a new fan of her work.
Cool.
So it's
Say her name again?
It's called The Secret Life of Grubs.
Oh,
is the name of the show.
awesome.
And Moretti Evergreen is her name.
That's a gorgeous name.
Yeah.
Well, my shout out.
Terrific. See that show.
That's fantastic, man. I'm down for some of that. My shout out is to the Bull City Poetry Slam, which is at Hayti. I think it's always the second weekend of the month, which I believe is going to make it this Saturday night.
Cool.
They tend to do some wildly cool themed stuff. Dasana Hanu is in charge of putting it together and always get some great poets out there. Plus, it's really encouraged interactive crowd back and forth. It's poetry is another thing where we just have a kick-ass scene and people are like, wait, we have modern dance. Wait, we have visual art. Wait, we have music. Yes, we have slam poetry too. So check them out at the Bull City Poetry Slam. Josh, thanks again for taping.
Thank you, Josh.
Love to have you. Maybe next week we'll
Go
take
Bulls.
it on location to some of these cool places. And
Yeah, that's a great idea. Cocoa is good, but there has to be coffee or beverages wherever
we
do
must
this.
start at Cocoa Cinnamon before anything else. Well, we will start at Cocoa Cinnamon, and then we'll see where we wrap. Thanks, Josh.
Sounds good.